I think that usually bodes better for the salesperson or the floor or whatever, or the deal, the life of the deal, right? Expectancy of the deal when you keep the same point of contact. It's not impossible, but I think you do lose percentage points when you are changing people.
100%. It just makes it way harder to close.
No, we never ever leave. Run the show, whoa, whoa, enemies. Never know, whoa, whoa, got it all locked down.
But what I was saying is, like, you had immediately after everything happened, you texted me and you had a plan on how you were going to proceed. And I was like, that's something that most people do. Even me, I would be sitting for a week on my ass like, this is what it is. And that doesn't seem like what you did at all. So if you want to explain a little bit kind of what the situation is that you're in and how you're handling it so far.
Yeah, so this has been kind of a funny situation, right? Is that, like, I'm in a kind of young position in my sales career, and I've enjoyed it. And I think I was at this company in the middle of 2023. I decided, I wanted a little bit more out of, like, just who I am, how hard I work, and everything like that. And I was working as a server at a pretty popular bar here in Bellingham. And I just got to a point where I was like, I'm getting really great tips, but we tip pool. And so, like, my money was great. It still was great, like, really great. But at the same time, when you're in the restaurant industry, like, you are at the mercy of the hours at which you are able to work. And so, I would on average, my shifts would be 4.5 hours, maybe, right? And so, like, I'd get 5-6 days a week. But, that's only really amounting to about 24 hours a week. Now, the money is great, and I could have picked up a ton of shifts, but I also value, a set schedule where I can go and, like, Monday through Friday or, Tuesday through Sunday, whatever the hell it is, right? And have that be, I go to work, I'm prepared, and then I have my time off. So I would pick up shifts when I would be like, okay, I want to, like, go do something extra this month or whatever, right? Or, like, they'd call me in if I, didn't have anything going on and felt like working, I would. So, like, it wasn't necessarily a big thing of, like, oh, I don't want to work, but I really want to make sure, like, I save space for myself, because I have a lot of interests and hobbies, and I like to do those things, and I don't want to just always be working. And, like, 7 days a week, even if it's only 4 hours a day, still feels like a work day. And, like, I like to have a hard line of separation between, like, hobby work and real work. And so I was like, well, let me get something more out of, like, who I am and my personality and, like, what I can do with myself and make something in this life. And so I got into sales, and then I was at a company that I really loved up here in Bellingham. And then, unfortunately, because it was tied to the real estate world, the real estate had been terrible post-COVID, like, after the big boom of everything. Like, anybody with a license, 2 eyes, 2 legs, and a brain could go and sell, like, 10 houses a year, and all of a sudden it went from 10 to 0. And so all these transactions stopped, and so this company that's directly tied to it, they had no money. They lost a ton of money. And so, like, seeing the writing on the wall, I kind of had a good feeling that I knew what was coming. And so it was actually the day after my 28th birthday, and I go into work, and it's my coworker's birthday, and she had just gotten hired, and I really liked her. And all of a sudden, I see this meeting pop up with my VP of sales, and we've never had a one-on-one like that because it was open door policy. I could just walk into his office, and I did all the time, and it was right by my desk. So, I was like, we don't do meetings like this.
This is weird.
Yeah, in this room that is kind of a specific purpose room. I've used a couple times, but, like, maybe 3 times in 7 months. And I just, like, I was like, you know what? I'm getting laid off. I know I'm getting laid off. And I did. And there was a thing, too, where, like, I was really close with the president of the company as well. He's a great person to work for. I really love this company. And he had been out sick for a few days. And I saw him in the break room that morning grabbing coffee. And I said, hey, how's it going? Good to see you back. And he was like, oh, hey, Garrett. It was really spacious. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to overthink it.
Yeah, like you were some sort of ghost or something. Like, oh,
yeah.
I thought you died, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, like, he just had, like, the flu. Like, he wasn't, like in surgery or, like, major health complications. But I just hadn't seen him. And so I was like, hey, how's it going? And just the way he, like, answered, I was like, okay, maybe he's under the weather, but he's, doesn't have enough PTO, whatever, right? Has work he needs to get done. Okay, cool. But then I see that meeting, and I was like, oh, my God. I just started laughing. I was like, I know exactly what's coming, and, like, some of my other coworkers didn't. So I knew right away. I was like, it's a layoff. I know. And then some of my other coworkers had their meetings first, and then, we don't see them again, and people are like, what's going on? And I just, like, kind of kept my mouth shut. I was like, I'm not going to be the one to break the news. I'll let them do it. But, so I get laid off. And so I joined this company, and so I was only about 7 months in at the previous one. So like first time ever being a salesman, it takes a long time to ramp up. Like most people don't really find their groove until about a year into sales. At least from what I've heard and read, like that's how I feel, unless you truly have the gift.
Yeah.
It does take a lot of hard work. And, a lot of these people that come into sales come from, like serving or sports or military, right? Like there's like certain criteria that most sales directors or managers are willing to take a fly on, right? Like somebody that doesn't have experience, those are the people that they like. So I'd been laid off, and then I started this other company in May. And, I hit or exceeded quota the first 3 months. Like, they were saying I was one of the better, new hires. And so things were going pretty well. Like the money wasn't great because you're ramping up, right? And like commission gets better, the more that you sell. But like for what I was, getting as far as quota, it was like, oh, it was good. And then I struggled the next 2 months because I was about at that year mark, and I was like, all right, how do I kick it in overdrive? And I started just overthinking the whole process and trying a whole bunch of different things. And, I kind of lost what was making me successful initially. And so I kind of got back to that. And then I had a really great October. I was number one in the organization out of, I think it was 33 total salespeople on the floor. And then I had a really great start to November. And then my grandpa's health started failing really, really quickly. And then he ended up passing away. And it was the holidays. And so then I had about, I think it was 12 work days off or something, including the holidays and bereavement. I don't even remember, right? But, I had a lot of time off. And so I kind of like just stalled in the middle of November. And then I came back and just still was just really not in a great mental spot there. And part of the thing that really, just really changed my outlook on, how the company dealt with me was that like, I had been asked one time, hey, is everything okay? And I was like, oh, that was really nice. And it was right before Thanksgiving. And I was like, okay, all right, nice, thanks. I'm okay, whatever. And in December, it was a completely different ballgame. It was, what the hell are you doing? Why aren't you, where are your numbers? Like, why aren't you? And I'm just like, honestly, I'm just kind of going through it. And I'm not one to shy away from like, could I have been working harder? Of course. I definitely wasn't being as productive as I had been in the past. I know that, and I'm not ashamed to admit that. But like, I just really was just going through it and having a hard time staying focused.
Yeah. And how long, before you go further, how long have you been with the company up until this point? How long has it been?
May to January was what it was. So about 8 months. So
okay.
I mean, I didn't have all of January, so I think May to December is 8 total working months in full. Yeah.
Okay, so not even a year yet.
Not even a year. And in the middle of December, it was like, hey, what's going on? You need to get your numbers up. And I was like, for sure, I understand. I was like, I'm kind of just going through it. And it was met with just like disdain. It was not empathetic at all. And I'm not naive. I know business is business. And I completely understood that. Like when I had that layoff the year prior, I have no ill will towards that company at all. I actually really still wish them all the best. I talked to actually a few of those coworkers pretty consistently through the year. I still see one of them on a consistent basis. Like I really like the work and the people. And, just to be met with that in December at this company, I was like, interesting. So I started reaching out to some friends, and I started actually looking for other work in December because I just really didn't like how I was being met in that space and where I was at mentally. And my direct comparison was that company that laid me off. We had a gal that was hired before me. So I was hired in July of 2023. She was hired maybe, I think, May 2023, something like that, right? And she was struggling. I think it was not her first sales role, but her first inside sales role. So, work from the office or, home, whatever. And she's a really, really, really kind person. She works way harder than everybody else. She just didn't really have that kind of social gift that I feel like a lot of salespeople, even good or bad, like, there's a spectrum, but like they at least have the social gift. I don't know that she really had that. Like she was more introverted and a little bit more quiet. And, I think in sales, you almost have to be extroverted.
At least be able to fake it for long enough to close the deal.
I was going to ask if you felt similar.
Yeah, 100%. I am an extroverted introvert.
Mm-hmm.
Like I like being social, and like I don't drink, but I love to be in bars because I love the chaos of the bar. Like I like the loud music and the conversations, and I love to play pool.
Yep.
But when it comes to like being the life of the party or wanting to be center of attention all the time, no, I pick and choose my moments. And then like I need nothing but like 2 hours of silence at the end of the night just to
wind it down.
Yeah, otherwise, dude, I can't shut off.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's just like, that's what I've kind of learned over the years. So yeah, I agree with you that you have to be social in some way, but you can fake it. That part
Yes.
is coachable and fakeable.
Yes, 100%. And I don't know that she had that. And like, obviously I'm speaking as an outside person, and like, I really, really like her as well. So I don't
Right.
want to, none of this is meant to be ill
And based off
spoken.
our own experience too.
Yeah.
Neither one of us are experts in probably very few things.
Yes.
This is not one of them. We're just talking here.
100%. And so but what I've never forgotten this is that they were giving her private coaching with a gal in the company that they thought would connect really well. They were exhausting all of their opportunities on her because they loved her. And they were also like, and that gal wasn't even in sales, but she was prior, the gal that she was doing coaching with. So like somebody they thought would connect better with her, a woman in leadership. They even like, what I thought was unbelievably cool was that like, there's seniors, there's juniors, there's round robins for leads. They funneled her more than the seniors for a time.
Yeah.
Because they were like, what if she just needs practice? We don't know.
Yeah.
So let's try it. So they funneled her a ton of leads. And at the end of it, she still didn't really come up with her sales numbers. And, business is business. But they decided that rather than completely just, cut her to dry, they moved her departments because they believed in how hard she worked and what she meant to the company. And I that has always stuck with me, is like, that's how you do right by your employees. Even if they are not like producing, there's probably something for them if you believe in who they are. And so for me, what I was seeing at this company was that I was just being treated like a number and not a person. And then I was watching my lead flow after being the number one person in the organization. So I proved that I belonged, and not only that, but I could perform at the highest level compared to some of these people that had been here for years.
Yeah, that's the part where I get lost at. Like, if you were just average, like, okay, even that's not justifiable to not treat you like a person. Let's just say it is.
Yeah.
If you were just average, fine. But you were just a month before or 2 months before, whatever, the number one in the organization.
Yep.
So that shows what you're capable of. It just, life happens sometimes.
Yeah.
So that's where I get so lost in the logic, especially because I know what you're talking about when there is other people that we know of that are not producing or haven't produced. Not that they cannot, just that they haven't.
Yeah. 100%. And this was something that, like, I was seeing myself get drowned in real time with their life vest just sitting there and looking at it like, you got to come and swim to it. And it's like, I'm trying, obviously. Like, I still at the end of the day was trying. Like, it's still my income, and like, I still wanted to be successful. But in my last full week of employment, I had gotten 7 leads from them. And I talked to one of my close colleagues, and he was like, you've gotten 7 in a week? I was like, yeah, I got 1 over the weekend. He goes, I got 10 over the weekend. And I'm like, yeah, that was like when I was actually getting leads from this company. That was more my, I wasn't getting maybe 10 because I wasn't a senior, but I was probably getting 6, 7, 8 on a good weekend. And this is supposed to be January, where it's the biggest month of the year, whatever. And I'm like, and I got 7 in a week. Like, they're restricting me to a point where I cannot be successful in this role. And like, I am hunting for new business, as I always have. And like, that's never been, like, prospecting has never been something I've forgotten about ever. And so it's like, I am doing the things that they tell me to do. I'm hitting the metrics that they told me I need to hit. But I would see my lead flow get decreased because, okay, I had a bad 30 days. Sure, I don't disagree, but I didn't hit 0. It was like, I wasn't hitting nothing. I still was getting some good deals, but to see the way that they treated me while being transparent too, like, it wasn't like I was just like, oh, I don't know.
Right.
I was doing laundry. I was just like, no, I'm honestly just going through it. Like, my grandpa passed away. Like, it's holidays. It's hard for me. That's kind of just it. But I would still try to hit my numbers, and I would just see my lead flow decrease week after week after week. And then, I was intending to split a deal with a colleague that I had gotten while I was out on bereavement. So I'd forwarded it to him. He had gotten in contact with this person, did the initial sales pitch, and we decided afterwards, he was like, do you want to take her? And I said, well, no, let's keep the same point of contact. I think that usually bodes better for the salesperson or the floor or whatever, or the deal, the life of the deal, right? Expectancy of the deal when you keep the same point of contact. It's not impossible, but I think you do lose percentage points when you are changing people.
100%. It just makes it way harder to close.
Agreed, because you don't have any rapport. You're starting from the ground up. Like, you can say that in the notes that this person is the easiest person to build rapport with, but it won't matter if you just don't vibe with that person. So we were like, okay, let's just keep it with you. And so from there, we're like strategizing, like, okay, like, where is she going to target? Are we going to try to upsell her? Like, what's the life of the deal? What's the expectancy? How are we going to target this to make sure that it closes? So I was in conversations with him. And then during this time, he's like, oh, she texted she wants to go at this time. Okay, cool. And then he gets pulled into a meeting. He goes, hey, can you take it? Okay, yeah, that seems like a good time to step in as a non-original point of contact. So I called and I texted. She said, give me 10 minutes. Okay. I said, yeah, call me when, you got time, and we will, we'll do this thing. And basically from there, she doesn't answer. It's like, okay, no worries. So my colleague gets off his meeting. I said, hey, she didn't answer. If you want me to call again, I will. But if you wanted to give her a call, you can. He goes, okay, let's keep the same point of contact. And from there, she doesn't close until the next day. And then at the same time, that next day, he goes, oh, shoot, I got pulled into a random meeting. Can you take it? I was like, yeah, I'm going to lunch, but like, hold on, let me just not clock out. I'll pull up the contact. And as I'm pulling up the contact, he goes, oh, that meeting got cut short. I got it. Go to lunch. Cool. She closes, and we split. 3 hours later, whatever it was, I get a meeting, and my manager at the time said, hey, we're not honoring the split. I said, what do you mean? So, well, you didn't call her enough. I was like, well, here's the context. Too bad. And I was like, what do you mean what? Like, it's not like it was just like something random that like, and this is the beginning of the month. I'm not like, he's not giving me some layup to, hit quota, or, it wasn't just some anything. It was like, no, this is a deal we've been actively like discussing and working on and like trying to figure out how best it's going to close. And I was available at 2 of these different meetings. We just wanted to keep the same point of contact for deal expectancy. And they said, we don't care. And so I stopped working that day. This was about an hour before I was supposed to clock out. And I was fuming. I was so mad. And I was like, nope, this is not a company that I like feel comfortable working for. Yeah. Because of how December, I was spoken to in December, and just like, why are we moving the goalposts when during all of my time here and all the deals that I've closed, I've never had a problem or like a split come back. Never. And I've never had a deal get taken out of my name because I didn't follow the rules of deal ownership. Never. So I've never had any issues with that. And so I was like, I don't even get a warning. This seems a bit unfair. I was like, if you guys have this expectancy, understood, I will do that from now forward. But to take away this deal early in the month, where now after November and December, like they had put me on a plan, and I was like, that seems a bit much, but okay, I'll do it. All good. And business is business, right? And so for that to come back, and then I had complained because I said, hey, here's the context behind it. I really think I should be giving a warning, because it wasn't a layup. It wasn't just like a given.
Yeah, it was a well-worked lead.
Yeah, and there was rationale why I didn't call 10 times, like whatever metric. I'm like, what? Their goalposts are unclear. Like, and then to move them after the field goal's made is like, okay, I just don't understand. And so because I had complained, they let me go. And after that deal had been taken, that was on a Friday, I applied to like 20 jobs over the weekend. I was like, nope. Like, I don't want to be here through January.
Yeah. Oh my God, dude. So
yeah.
I want to highlight that part real quick. So they let you go. How long did it take until you had 20 applications out?
I'd already had them done. 3 days before I had been let go, I had already done 20 applications.
You knew it.
And I spoke to somebody on Friday, actually, a guy that I know. I've known him for a long time. We've both played lacrosse at a high level. We played with each other back in the day. We played against each other now, like, good buddy of mine. And we coached against each other, like, super intertwined in the lacrosse world. And he's a salesman. And I saw him on Friday at the gym, and he's like, what's going on, man? And I was like, dude, I'm working off some steam. Yeah. And so I'd asked him, I said, hey, tell me more about your company. What's going on in your world? Like, he does more like outside sales, and I haven't really had any experience there. I was like, what do you think? Like, you've been there about 3 years. Like, tell me more.
Can we explain the difference between outside sales and inside sales real quick?
Yeah. Yeah. Outside is like, you're going business to business, door to door. It's like the people kind of more like suit and tie style, or like outside sales is also quite literally like if you're a door to door solar salesman, window salesman, pest control, whatever, it's where you're actually out in the field, they say. So you're like going and prospecting in person. Inside sales is like almost entirely remote, whether that's Zoom, whether that's phone calls, whether that's Riverside, what we're filming on right now. Like, it doesn't matter, right? Like, whatever it is inside is you're staying basically with the company physically.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course. And so he was like, well, hey, man, at the very least, I can get you an interview. I said, all right, that's cool. So
as a salesman, you're like, bet. That's,
yeah,
you got me in.
Yeah, 100%. And he was actually the number one sales rep in his region. So all of the Western region. So that includes like Calgary, Oregon, Washington, like
nice,
huge territory. And he ended up being number one in 2024. Hard worker, great guy. And so his referral went a really long way. And so I had gotten a call from the hiring manager. He texted me on Tuesday and we had an interview on Wednesday. So the same day, basically, I got let go. I got an opportunity for an interview the next day. And then I talked to a recruiter on Friday. So he was like, yeah, you got to call the recruiter. We're doing this a little backwards because you're referral, but he's like, you do have to still speak to the recruiter. So we jumped through all the corporate hoops. And I was like, for sure. Yeah, sounds good. But I had a great call with him and he was like, yep, let's meet next week in person. So I have a meeting set up for this coming Wednesday. Yeah. And then I had a great call with the recruiter on Friday and she kind of asked me about the same thing. Like, so you're not working right now? And I said, no. She's like, you want to tell me about that? And I was like, how much time do you have?
Yeah. Let's go, dude. I'm ready.
Yeah. So I gave her the full rundown, and I've always been myself, like, and I think that that's something that people gravitate towards is that, like, I will always give you the full transparency. Like, again, like, I did struggle in those middle 2 months after my first 3 of, like, hitting or exceeding quota. I totally did. I got back to basics. I proved myself to be number one in the company and that I can do this at a high level. And then my grandpa died and it was the holidays. I just had a hard time in November and December. I really did. And, I wasn't really given an opportunity to fully come back from having down months, and I entered January with a really great new perspective, and like I felt like it was a good time to like reset and like kind of put my mentality forward, and like I can still grieve, but like it wasn't so much affecting my actual day-to-day workflow. And so I was working really hard in January, but because I had complained and I got let go, it was like just kind of funny how it all worked out. So I told her, I was like, I didn't tell her actually about the commission thing and complaining, but like I did tell her about just like struggling and just being honest. And I think that if I'm going to be with a company, I want them to know the truth and for them to be like, wow, that really sucks, man. We totally get it though. And have that be the baseline rather than, nope, they were totally right. You should have hit your numbers. I agree. Yeah. Sure. I agree. Yeah. Business is business, right? I'll say that till I die. I'm not naive, but also let's be real people for a second,
Yeah. Well, and again, back to what we were saying before, like business is business. This guy hits top numbers and has done it before, which is no easy feat in any organization. Especially when you're competing against, more than 10 people. You're competing against 20 other people in our organization that still work there currently and hitting number one. So like, I have to think about this from like as my hiring process is. I live by a very, very simple hiring and firing process. It's so easy. You hire super fast, you fire even faster, and you promote the fastest.
Yeah.
And that's very, very simple. So I'm like, okay, if I'm thinking about Garrett as a number, how do I look at this? You haven't been there a whole year yet. So I'm taking all 8 months. I'm taking the average months that you hit your quota or your goal, whatever that is, whether you're in ramp or in not. I'm taking your P to G and I'm saying out of all 8 months, does he hit numbers? In your case, it would be a yes. Mm-hmm. And you're like, okay, we got to figure out what's wrong. And if what is wrong, we can fix it.
Yeah.
Like if it's worth the time to fix. Now, if it's not, we let him go. Maybe it's one of those things where like your grandpa died, this week, but then like 2 weeks ago, your cousin died and then your dog ran away. Then somebody ate your homework. If it was one of those things, like, see you later, dude. But it sounds like this was like a first real issue and we just chose not to overcome it.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. And that was where like, it's not easy to be fired. This is actually the first time I've ever been fired in my life, and I take a lot of pride in that as well. But that's where it was like, I was like, you know what? I'm happy to not work for them. I really am. And like, as much as like, I've kind of like given myself some space to like, I had a couple of days this week where like, I didn't do anything like in the workforce, like I was like, okay, I've applied to 40 something 50 jobs like in the last week, 10 days, whatever, right? And I was like, that feels like a good number. I haven't done nothing, but I still want to give myself some time to just take a break, just relax a little bit and like understand that like I'm going to be in the workforce for another 50 years. So like giving myself some grace for a couple of days is like, I can do that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
definitely was like, I thought maybe some more like despair and doom would hit me, not having a job right now. But it doesn't feel like that because I am happy to not be associated with something that doesn't treat me like a person and who I am.
Yeah, it doesn't align with. I can relate to the first time I was ever fired from a job was last year, actually. And it was the first time I'd ever felt relief. So I have a similar story where I was working for this glass company. I was doing construction before I got back into remote. I was doing windows more specifically. That was kind of the trade that I picked up on and I liked. So I was doing windows, and I really hated working construction. I like doing it for myself, helping a friend on the weekend, listening to music, being silly, whatever. And I like learning something new that's challenging. But doing it for a living, especially working in a blue-collar world when all of my goals align in like a white-collar way. Yeah. And like I'd gotten to a point where like the only thing that was stopping me from hitting my goals was me not doing anything and just staying at this damn job. So the universe kind of forced my hand a little bit where I smoke pot regularly. Like that's my one vice.
Yeah.
But during this particular time in my life, I had picked up pneumonia and was sick with pneumonia, had to go into the hospital. So I was out of work for like 7 days or something like that. 7 days, 10 days, and I get back to work, and my normal routine is I would get to work, I'd grab the keys from the truck, go unlock everything, start cleaning out the back of the truck from the day before, get the tools ready, so when my lead popped up, like we were get in the truck, grab coffee, let's go. Well, the keys were gone from the truck. I'm like, okay, that's weird, probably in my manager's desk because he locks them up at night. Go over to his desk, his shit's all locked up. What the heck? He walks in. I'm like, hey, give me keys.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get started. We have a big day ahead of us. I know the job I have today. Like, let's go. He's like, oh, no. Just wait a minute. Okay, well, let me at least grab my tools. Like, it's my tools. You don't get to. Let me at least get started. I'm not behind because you want to have some conversation, power trip, whatever.
Yeah.
And it turns out where he's bringing us in to the office, me and one of my leads, and he says, actually, I have to let you guys go because somebody reported you guys smoking pot on the job. I said, okay, when? And he said, well, during these days, last week. I was like, I was in the hospital with pneumonia last week. And he said, well, that's not what they said. I'm like,
I was not working.
I was in the hospital with pneumonia. Like,
yeah.
I was like, okay, well, was I even clocked on during? He's like, no, you weren't clocked on last week. I was like, so how was I on the job site?
Right.
Like, well, I don't know. You could have been there. You could have.
Holy.
So then they walk me out. They escort us out of the building. They don't let me grab my tools, which is super illegal.
Did you ever get them back?
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah,
okay, good.
I did.
Yeah.
I called the police. I said, hey, I can either show up with the police or you can just open them up. But here's the best part. I come home from work. I haven't told my wife anything. I just get in my truck and I head home. I live like 10 minutes away.
Yeah.
Pull up. Walk in the house, dogs are excited to see me, wife's excited to see me, babe. Right inside where I put my keys, there's like a key bowl. Right next to the key bowl, pregnancy test, positive.
Same day?
Same day.
Wow, dude.
Same day.
Wow.
And you would
Who broke the news first? Well, obviously you saw the test results.
Yeah, I saw the results and I immediately you would think in that moment it would be freak out. It was such a sigh of relief.
Yeah.
It was such a sigh and relief, and the big reason is I knew I didn't want to be at that job anymore, so that problem solved. My wife and I didn't think we were going to be able to have kids. We didn't think that was even a possibility. We had been told by many doctors it wasn't ever going to happen. By my 30th birthday, we were going to start the adoption process, and that was just going to be how it worked. So to get fired from this miserable thing that I hated doing, and then to come home and be like, holy shit, we're making it happen.
Yeah, that's incredible.
It was immediately like, okay, my problems actually just got solved. And it seems like the problems that I picked up now, I just more aligned with the struggles that I was about to endure versus the struggles I was enduring before, which is kind of similar to what you're going through. You're figuring out that, okay, yes, either way, what you do, it's going to be a struggle. Like you work in sales.
Of course.
We do hard things.
Yeah.
So, but the struggle that you're choosing aligns with you.
Yeah.
better now.
100%.
So this is actually a huge step forward, even though anybody is justified in saying my 2025 is shot because I spent the first week of the year getting let go.
Well, it's funny because like it feels so similar to last year. Like I feel like I'm just stuck in this loop of like, okay, January comes around, I'm looking forward to like a fresh start, and I get let go or fired or whatever, and I'm like, it was the first time I'd ever been laid off, and it was the first time I'd ever been fired, and I'm like, man, right after the holidays, like right after, I'm like, come on, like, and so, you know, I think that there's something to be said about going through this a second time where I really didn't like what I was doing as far as like who I was working for, because the job was about the same, but it's like I just didn't like who I was working for. That it feels a lot more relief than last year when I loved the company that I was working for, and it was like, well, you're getting laid off, like we would love to keep you, but we cannot. And so that felt a little bit more doomy than it does right now, for sure. Just a different scenario, but it's like, man, like what a way to start the year, right?
Yeah.
Like, geez.
Yeah, why you said that like it feels like you're stuck in a loop. Like I like to see things as like test. Like if you're noticing that pattern in your life, in the way I would look at that is like, okay, universe is trying to tell me something, and for some reason I'm not listening or I can't figure out what it is. What do you think like your test is? Like why do you think you are stuck in this loop?
I think let's say I stay in sales, because I'm looking at different options right now. Like I'm not completely like sold on like I need to stay in sales, this is my calling. Like I think I'm quite good at it, I think I enjoy it, so I think that that's something worth exploring. But I'm about a year and a half in since I got like my first like start date in sales, and like let's say I stay in sales, and come January next year, let's say it's one of the three: layoff, fire, quit, right? Like one of the three. If I'm experiencing this another time, it's going to be a get the hell out of sales and never look back kind of deal. But I think with just the circumstances I've had, I'm not at that point yet, just because I think a layoff is really like, it's not personal, right? Like that, and again, business is business. The numbers, the writing was on the wall, and like even when I got that meeting, like I said, I knew right away. I was like, man, come on.
Yeah.
But like that was really cool too, because like my VP of sales was crying. Like he obviously like felt so strongly about it. Like he felt miserable, and the president was like really, really, really somber, and he's normally like a pretty upbeat guy. And like the HR lady, I never met her, but like, you know, she wasn't obviously having a good day either. And so to like have that be the case, and like be so obvious that these people were like, we really didn't want to do this. And then the way that they said it to me, which always left a good impact on me, was that the president and the VP were like, hey Garrett, like we love you, we wanted to keep you, we actually lobbied to keep you specifically, but the CEO, his decision was seniority, and they were like, there was no way around it. Even though we pleaded and we tried to bargain for your spot to stay, we literally could not. And they were like, this feels so much worse talking to you, because like there are some people that like we feel okay letting go, like we understand that sometimes you have to make those decisions and it's easier for some people. They were like, you were one of the hardest that we, you know, had to let go. But they were like, whatever you need for your next employment, whether that's a reference, whether that's help, you know, with your resume, like whatever you need, send it our way and we will have your back. And that has still rung true. Like I still talk to those people at that company, and like
that relationship will take you further than anything else. Like anything else, especially if you do end up staying in sales. Like just having that point of reference, somebody that'll answer the call first ring and be like, Garrett, guy's a G, like hire him, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's super powerful. What do you think your calling is?
So this is something I've kind of been thinking about since kind of the fall, you know, like I struggled in those 2 months. And so I was like, okay, is this really for me? I'm about a year plus now. You know, I was like, okay, that's enough time to really like get yourself deep into, you know, the processes and you know, what a job looks like and how you feel doing it.
Yeah,
like
it's within like enough data.
Yeah. And like, I don't really move too quickly on anything like that. So it was definitely something where it was like, okay, like you have good days, you have bad days, like, but what is my average? I was kind of thinking that because I have a background in like serving, and like I worked in food for like 5 years as like front of house, back of house. I kind of did it all. I have a big background in coaching, so like, you know, a lot of lacrosse coaching as well. And I was like, you know, I work really well with people. I'm great with people and like building those relationships. So I've been looking more into like customer success. So like, the sales team passes somebody off to me, and I get to be that point of contact. I get to help with their onboarding. I get to help with their business. And like, I've done some business consulting as well. So like, I have a really big passion for like laying things out for people and helping them achieve their goals. And I think that is really fulfilling work for me. And sometimes with the sales process, it isn't as fulfilling, even if you help someone, because at the end of the day, you hang up that phone call, you probably never speak to them again, ever. And it's like, okay, is that something that I'm like willing to live with? Because I don't feel like I'm as impactful. Like, yes, I'm solving problems by getting them this product, or like I'm being this part of the solution, but I'm not part of the continued success. Like, I don't get to see their eyes light up after, they increase revenue by X%, or they hit that first transaction goal that they're looking for, or like, they're hitting new metrics. Like, I'm not really part of that process. Like, I help them push the stone down the mountain, but like, I'm not part of keeping it straight or like making sure it has enough momentum. And so customer success has really stuck out for me, where it's like, I can use my coaching skills, I can use my consulting skills, I can build relationships with people, and I can continue to be a part of the process that changes the way that they view their business and their outlook and their finances, and, just helps their overall just well-being, whether it be from a healthy standpoint in their business, in their life, their finances. Like, I think that for me is more so in line with like what I'm looking to do in this life and be more impactful than, currently what sales is. Now, that doesn't mean I don't want to keep doing sales, because I do like it quite a bit. I think outside sales and like what I'm kind of looking into right now is maybe a bit more like longer sales cycle might be more beneficial for me, because I can, continue to use what I've learned in sales, like great follow-up, great relationship building, but have it be more of like an impactful relationship, so that when they, they do have that time of need, if they tell me that no, but it's a no right now, but then they think of when it is that time, or like I will pop in because I'm good at follow-up and be like, hey, we were talking about July. Is July still good? Like, and they're like, yeah, absolutely. Like, let's have a meeting. And I think that will pay more dividends for me and like how I view my fulfillment at work than currently, where it's like super short sales cycle. Like, the expectation in both of my roles the last year and a half were like, if you don't close them on the first call, you never will. Or you almost never will. Like, I've closed quite a few without, but like more often than not,
most of your stuff was one call closes?
Quite a few, yeah.
Damn, dude.
Like probably 60%.
Dude, you want to hear a fucking... Okay, you're going to think this is weird. I'm the total opposite. You know where most of my deals come through?
Third or fourth call?
Email, bro. I won't even talk to them for 2 days, and I'll get the congratulations email.
Love that.
Sweet. I'll give them a quick call. Let's set up your domain. Cool. IT will be in contact with you on Wednesday. See you later, bro. Like 9 out of 10 are just come through first thing in the morning, and I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, sweet. Move on.
That's sick. Yeah, I've had a few of those, but I would say probably most of my deals were one callers.
I rarely, literally the other 1 out of 10 is a one call close. And that's somebody that came in through a lead. That's like a website that's like hot and ready.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, okay, cool. 15 leads, $1,200, $299 to get started. Let's go.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's sick. And that's a great feeling too, and like they both feel so good. And I think that like that's a great high to have. It's like when those deals come through and know that they're coming through. Like, I think that's it's pretty hard to beat, but it also makes the silent periods feel that much louder. Yeah.
Dude, miserable. This is what I think that like people addicted to heroin describe withdrawal from, is when you go a week without a sale. You're like, oh yeah, I'm shaking. I'm questioning every decision I've ever made in my entire life.
How can I pull this together by any means possible? Like, I must. Yeah. It is a need.
Yeah, that's been the hardest thing for me to overcome, since this is like my first professional sales role. And like my first month, like I was only on the phone for like 10 days before the end of the month, and I closed one sale. I was like, okay, but my second month, it was like every day or every other day I closed something. And I was like, this is what it's going to be like.
Yeah, you were going nuts.
And then I went 3 weeks dry, and my whole world shut down.
And everyone's just like, oh, that's sales, bro. And you're like, it doesn't have to be like this.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't understand. This is not fair. I'm doing something wrong. There's something fucked up. And then it started picking up again. I realized that I just like drained my pipeline, and I was starting over. And I was like, oh, okay, good. Okay.
100%. And that was kind of my experience in October going into November and December, was that like my pipeline completely dried up because I closed them all.
Yeah.
So I didn't have anybody to follow up with in November and December. And then, getting my lead flow restricted was like, okay, like if everything closed and I'm going through this hard time and now I'm being throttled, how can we expect the same level of performance if I'm not being given the same opportunities? And I'm not here to sit here and say that like I couldn't have found some more deals. Like, of course, right? Like,
sure, you could have gone cold called every roster in the country. You could have worked until 9 o'clock at night. You could have done a million things, but that's not. You shouldn't have had to yet. You weren't at that level of proving ground yet, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree. And I had been told directly by one of the higher ups that like most of your business should come from your leads. And I'm like, okay, well, if you want me to make 100 dials in a day, but I got 7 leads in a week, I'll call those leads every day. And I did. Yeah. I will do that. That's no problem. But like if I only have 7 calls, like that's still 93 more people I need to go and find every day. Like if only 7% of my incoming business is from, and you're saying it's supposed to be 80% of my book of business on a month-to-month basis, but it's only 7% of who I'm calling in a week. Like, no, not even.
Like that doesn't work, bro.
It's more like 500. It's like 7 out of 500. So it's like we're even looking at like 2% of, and I'm like, that's not what you're saying, and what I'm receiving is not. They're not in line. Like, I'm not being lied to per se, but like it's my expectations for what is actually coming in. Just the goalposts are moving in a way that don't seem like it's logistical.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to get back to, what do you think you're calling? What do you think you're calling? Like, what do you think you were put here to do? I know you said like customer service or business growth, but I heard all I heard was run some sort of business consulting, because it's like you want to do all these things and you're good at all these things, but ultimately at the end of the day, you want to serve a single purpose. So like, I'm curious, what is something that you have avoided, not got into because you think you couldn't do it?
I've seen that online everywhere where someone's like, I had that wake up call, like whatever, like your window job, like, my current situation. And people are like, I just started a business. And I'm like, that sounds great. Where the hell do you just start a business? Like, that is crazy.
It's the grossest understatement in the world, because it's the hardest thing in the world to do, but you love it. You love it. I do. It's torture.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you already mastered lead gen, which every business that you could ever start, especially an online business, it's your first problem. Yeah. How do I generate leads? You have a unique skill where you're already really comfortable on the phone. You can already pitch. So you just need a kind of product that you can provide, which is the second problem. Yeah. So there's only 2 types of businesses, right? There's service products or service industries, and then there's actual products. Yeah. So you can go into designing a product that solves a very specific problem, or you can come up with a service that solves a very specific problem. If you like customer service, the first thing I would do is use ChatGPT to make an ebook on how to be a successful customer, how do you make sure all of your clients succeed within the first 30 days. Some shit like that. Right. And I would take $500 and run advertisements for it on Facebook to opt in with email. And I would take all those emails and ask for feedback. Hey, what problem can I solve for you? What would you pay me for? No bullshit. And be like, 100%. I would pay you to run an agency that does all of my customer service. Bang. Boom. Yeah, done. Right there. And then you find $100,000 and you start a business.
Yeah, right. So that's the funny thing too, is that I actually do own a couple businesses as well.
You do? What do you do?
So I started a youth lacrosse league with a friend of mine.
Okay.
But that is way more of a passion project, and like both him and I got into this saying we're not looking to
like
really
profit.
Create
Is it like a nonprofit or something?
No, it's for profit. We haven't gotten to the nonprofit like kind of sector. Like we need a bit more like strategic growth.
It's
before
pain
that.
In the ass.
Yeah, but getting parents to commit to it, like another thing for their kids that costs $1,000, is tough to have that initial growth. And like we had a great client base already because we had done similar stuff, and the role was already filled, and we'd worked for this company that was already doing this. And then that group folded. Like it was basically like all these dads had done it while their kids were like in third, and they did it basically until they went to college, and the dads were like, get us the fuck out of here, you know? So me and my friend were like, well, we both have no kids and we've been coaching, so let's do our own. The unfortunate problem for me is that it's an hour away from where I live, if not longer, with traffic. And so I did it for a season, and I kind of gave so much more time, and I only got reimbursed for like maybe half the gas I spent on. So I actually lost money, which is like, as a business owner, you kind of expect to lose money. And if you think you're going to immediately profit,
first
like
5 years.
Yes. Yeah. You're totally in the wrong. But it was kind of more of like, I need to focus on my sales role before I can start divvying up my time elsewhere and like just giving my time away for free. And I don't feel like my time is worth giving away for free. As often as I was. So I did one full season, and then I kind of relinquished that to my friend. I'm still kind of like a consultant in that realm, where like, you know, we still talk about what he's doing and like how I can help support him and stuff like that. And like, I still am part of that process. But like, I did kind of step away because at this moment I need a bit more profit before I can like dive in. And whether that's in my normal professional workplace or if it's in this company, either way, I just need things to start looking like having a higher upside.
Yeah. Don't you have like any, or do you have any like creative skills, like photography, videography?
I'm a photographer, so that's my other business that I run.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I do kind of like private photography for people. Like, I've been a photographer for like 10 years. I just upgraded my setup.
Oh, nice.
You know, just spent way too much money on this guy. And so I've been looking for more opportunity to shoot, you know, just like portraits is really kind of what makes the lifeblood of a photographer kind of tick, because you have clients here and there and you get referrals and this and that. And so more so it's just been people that I know, because I don't advertise for it. Like, I've always done it, and people see the quality of the product, and people have reached out to me that know of me, like already, like we're friends or we're family or whatever, right? And so I've gotten a lot of my clients just from straight up referrals, because they see what I can produce and they're like, I want in. And so I've done a lot of that, and I have kind of considered moving more into the realm of like, okay, do I go and do that sort of lead generation? Do I look for people I don't know? How do I get in front of these people that I don't know? I know how to solve that, but it also costs money more often than not.
And photography is, how much do you love it? Because you're gonna hate it.
I absolutely love it. Yes, exactly. And right now I'm in a space where like, I absolutely love getting a singular client, however often the frequency is, spending all of my time in a full week to like make this like a really great album. And I always provide more rather than less. So like, a lot of photographers, what they do is it's like $300 for a session, and you get an hour with the photographer and you get 10 edited photos. I'm like, hey, book me. Here's the time I'm free. We'll shoot for as long as we want.
Hang out.
Yeah, I will edit as many of the ones I think are good, but we're going to have different perspectives. So I'm not going to give you my 10 best. I'm going to give you 50 to 100 all edited, and you will like ones that are different than I like. And like, you will have a different eyeball for what you wanted out of this session than I want. So I spend a lot of time on my clients and providing them a full-fledged album that they can go back and reference, and like maybe their taste changes. And like, I never delete the album. They have lifetime access to it. Like, you know, I pay for a service to store my photos, and I'll provide them that link, you know, and they can always have the photos. So, you know,
that's how
that
it
for
should
me,
be.
Agreed. And that for me is way more fulfilling.
Is there a way to combine your love of lacrosse with photography and make that somehow profitable?
Yes, but there is a caveat there, because I have shot a good number of lacrosse games and have been paid for them. However, most lacrosse organizations run at negative budget. And so for them, looking at like when they have to pay for officials, they have to pay for field rentals, they have to pay for equipment, they have to like sponsor kids, all of these things. It's like photography, they're like, what are you talking about? We can't spend money on that.
So would you say that their budgetary restrictions is like a youth lacrosse league's like biggest enemy? Okay, how do we solve that problem?
Yeah, there's a lot of like fundraising organizations, and I've worked with some of them.
What about lead generation for fucking lacrosse leagues? Like,
is not a bad idea.
Like, what if you ran ads? You'll come out to wherever they are, take photos, whatever. They pay for the ad spend.
Yeah.
Maybe you find some kid on Fiverr to run ads for them to attract more players, to get more donations. Fiverr. Yeah, I do too. It's a cheat code.
It's sick.
Like, what if? Yeah, if you could solve the budgetary restrictions of that problem, then you have a business. How many lacrosse leagues, I wonder, are there nationwide? Probably a lot in the youth.
There's a lot, but the Northwest is tough. It is like, because I've been a coach in that realm, it is fickle. And like, I used to butt heads with the league all the time for the team I was running I ran a team in Arlington for a couple of years, and then COVID shut it down. And then I got offered to coach in the city that I live in. And I was like, I have to take this role because it's either a 4-minute drive to the field or an hour and 30. And it was a big pay cut, but I was like, I don't care. I really don't, because I would rather have that time like I was talking about. And the league is so centric on where their maximum player base is, which is 95% of players live within an hour of Seattle in Washington State. So a lot of these rules and regulations and logistical nightmares for teams outside of that hotbed, right, were not geared towards the people in smaller markets. So it was everything is kind of based around Seattle and like what Seattle's doing. And like anybody outside of that is sick of it. But like, because it is the only governing body that provides these kids with the structure that they're used to at like the high school level, like, because it's kind of a club high school mix. It's in a very unique spot. Some schools have it fully sponsored, fully varsity, and like the kids don't pay. Some are completely clubs. Some are, their school hates them and they can't even practice on the field. Like, I was in a good spot in Bellingham where my school was like, yes, we want you, we like you, you have a field, you have practice times, you have this, you have support. And I had a great relationship with the AD. So I think the funding is a huge thing, especially here in the Northwest. So it's very unique hurdles that I think if I were on the East Coast, it would be so much easier to do the lead generation, to do the photography, because there is just so much more cash flow and things have been regulated in a sense that it's much more beneficial to all levels of lacrosse. And right now in the Northwest, it is really janky in many ways.
So if you could do it remotely, like again, using Fiverr to find a photographer out there, hey, I need X amount of shots, and you just kind of be the pull strings. Like, you'd still have to work a W-2 for a while, probably 12 to 18 months while you're figuring out. But if you were just kind of the puppet master behind it and then did, some Saturday calls with clients as the client success manager, you kind of wearing that hat, delegating everything else. I mean, you could get, even at like, I'd start like $500 a month just to see what somebody would pay you. And if you get one testimonial out of it, you can run an ad with that $500. And that would be a really cool thing that you could do, because nobody messes with lacrosse, dude. Like, it's such a shame that nobody knows about it.
It is. And like literally 99% of the time I hop into like a video, something like this, and somebody doesn't know, any background on me. They see these jerseys, they're like, oh, I love hockey. And I'm like,
nah, close, but not quite.
Close, but no.
Yeah. I'll get into arguments with people who, like, they'll start talking about hockey and how, like, Canada's all about hockey and it's their only national sport and all these things. I'm like, actually, let me just school you here a little bit here. They play lacrosse and it's an old war game, okay?
Yep.
And they'll get, like, into it. Yeah. It's fun to watch people's gears turn, especially because, like, lacrosse was really, like, all over North America. We just put this stupid border in here to play it, but how did you get started in, like, how did you find the sport that we both love?
Yeah, I was best friends with this guy who played, I think from when he was 3rd grade onward, and this was in 7th grade, we started becoming pretty close, and his dad was the commissioner of my youth league. And so he had goals in his backyard, like he had a ton of extra equipment, stuff like that, so we would just be messing around in the backyard, and I was getting pretty sick of baseball. Like, I was a pretty good baseball player as a kid, and I just didn't, like, I was falling out of love with it. Like, my dad was really into it, and like gave me a lot of opportunities. Like, I have no ill will towards, like, he was not like the super overbearing dad, but he was definitely like very invested in my baseball success, and I just kind of fell out of love with it. And then it was like, okay, I can either play baseball as I enter the ending years of middle school and beyond, or I can play lacrosse.
Were you good at baseball at all?
I was pretty good at baseball. Yeah,
dude,
I was
so
pitcher, fielder. I was a great hitter.
Good at baseball and good at lacrosse. It's like those who can't hit a ball throw a ball.
Yeah. I was pretty good. I was in some good youth leagues. I was on like all-star teams and stuff like that.
Awesome,
like,
dude.
I've always just been a sports guy. Like, I've always been. I don't want to say I'm good at every sport I play, because that's obviously not true. But when I like it, I will invest time to get better, or like I will use my natural athleticism to be successful. Like, I joined an indoor soccer league 1.5 years ago, and like, I'm terrible at kicking a ball. My feet and my brain don't communicate very well, but I would score like good amounts of games, or I would just be a great defender because I have like these principles of athleticism that are just ingrained in who I am now.
Yeah.
So
mental
I would say, like,
too is a big thing in any sport. Like, okay, I might suck at this, but I'm just going to run and run and run. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, and like also like how can I get better after each play? Like why did I miss the ball there? Or like why did, I kind of miss that tackle or whatever, right? And so taking each play, like I'm because I've played at really high levels in lacrosse, like I know I'm not shaken by the bright lights of the sport anymore. And like, especially when I'm in a pickup soccer league, I'm like, okay, I suck right now, but like, what can I do right now to give my team the best chances to win? And it's like, should I be a striker because I can barely handle the ball? Probably not. Like, I have good power when I connect, but I have no idea where it's freaking going and whether or not I'm even going to make it go forward when I kick it. So it's like, let me just be a pass guy and play good defense. And like, I can run transition all day. So like, that was where like, if you take kind of an average person, like anybody off the street, if they don't have soccer experience or like their soccer level is equal to mine, I feel confident that I'll be better than them just because I have such a deep background in sports. And I don't mean to say that with like an ego or anything, but just I have so much experience playing sports since I was a child that like I have a really great idea and foundation of like what's my role on this team.
You probably watch a lot of sports and stuff too, right? Yeah. Okay.
So yeah.
You have like this very global understanding of like, even if you didn't know the sports at all, like, have you ever watched cricket?
I have, and I have no idea what the hell is going on, but I love seeing there's like 30 guys on the field, there's 1 million points scored a game, there's crazy rules, and like, but it's like a super big global game, and so like,
it's like one of the biggest. It has like
huge.
a bigger following than NFL. It's wild.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. So I can get down with basically any sport. Like, I watch cornhole on TV sometimes, and that's not a sport. Like, come on. Anybody that says that is lying. It's like darts. Like, I'll watch darts. I'm like, whatever. If there's competition and there's points and there's winners and losers, I can get down with that. Yeah. And I'm getting really into women's sports, too, because I think it's such a it's a growing market.
I've always had fighting right now. Dude, the UFC has some just insane girls coming out of the gate right now.
Their fights are awesome, man. Sometimes the men's fights are so boring. I never feel like that with the women. Like,
we got a couple superstars in the men's department right now.
Yeah.
Some good drama, but like Mackenzie Dern fought last night
and
got an armbar in the end of the first round. And like the chick that she fought, the last time she fought her, she had given birth and 4 months later was in the fucking octagon fighting. And like, as someone who just had a baby, I'm like,
tough as nails, bro.
Tough as nails, dude. And then goes into the first round and submits somebody. Like,
that's incredible. I need to watch the highlights on that. But yeah, I've like always been a big sports guy. Like, I don't know if I mentioned this yet, but like I've done broadcasting for quite a bit. For lacrosse,
dude.
too.
I wanted to talk about that. I was checking out your YouTube video that you shared with me in that.
The playlist.
Dude, that's just a fucking random thing. How did you get into that?
So this was cool. I moved to Prague, Czech Republic, to go play lacrosse. This was post-COVID, and
humble brag.
I mean, hey man, I was poorer than poor. I lived in like Soviet era apartment complexes. Like, it was not luxurious. When you think of Prague, you think of like super luxury, the city. And I moved to the outskirts, and I was an English teacher, right? Like, that was the income. But my friend met this guy that moved over there and fell in love and stayed there, and now has a Czech wife, Czech baby, like the whole nine, and like is a huge liaison for the sport. Like, I genuinely think he'll get inducted into the Hall of Fame at some point for what he's done overseas. He's going to hate it, and he will probably throw the award in the trash. He's amazing. His name is Brian Whitmer. He's incredible. Everyone in the lacrosse world that is like internationally connected at all knows this guy, because he just gives back everything to the game. And he meets one of my teammates from the States here that I played with at college and then post-college with my indoor team. And he meets him in Israel. He's got, a Jewish heritage, so he played on their heritage team in Israel. They had a big tournament. And he meets this guy, comes back and goes, hey, if anybody is feeling like they want to just move to the Czech Republic and play lacrosse, I have a contact. And this was post-COVID. I wasn't using my degree. I was working, my job situation obviously changed because of COVID. And so like, I was just kind of like, you know what? I don't have a girlfriend. I don't have a wife. I'm not really using my degree. I've never traveled outside of Canada. I've never even gone to Mexico. I was like, let me talk to this guy. Worst thing I can do is talk to this guy and say no. My buddy that I've known and played with since like 8th grade hops into this meeting too. I had no idea. And we talked to this guy for about an hour. And at the end of it, we hang up and we text each other. Are we moving to yeah. And so we did. And so when I was over there, it was like within the first 2 months, I ended up tearing my hamstring at a tournament, and then I ended up still playing because the team was like, we need you. And I was like, all right, whatever, cool. So I'm playing, and I get hit from behind on a bad hamstring, and so my leg, I land on it super outstretched, and it just goes. So they had the national Czech league is actually, it's the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Poland, Germany, Austria, maybe another country, but I think just those 5. So it's a great Central European national league. And so we had the playoffs, like, and my team was in it, but I couldn't play, obviously, because like at this point I was like, I am not suiting up. My hamstring is fully torn. This is terrible. But they have a media booth. It's one of the best arenas in the entire world. It's unbelievable. Like, let me try to share it real quick.
Yeah, you can screen share too.
Yeah. So basically, they have this huge media tower, and I was like, I want in. I want to be part of that. So, we get me in the booth. And so then when I was over there, there's like all these other tournaments and stuff like that. And I just started asking people, hey, you have this big tournament. Do you have a broadcaster? They said, no. I said, great, I do broadcasting. You gonna pay me? Travel me out? Yeah. Okay. So I ended up, when I was over there, I did the Germany Lacrosse Convention. I did 2 European championships as the lead broadcaster. And then I've done multiple tournaments.
Any experience before this?
None. But I just know the sport, and
yeah. And you like to talk, and you love it.
Yeah.
It's like how Joe Rogan got into UFC.
100%.
Same.
Yeah, like, and I'm a big proponent of, like, closed mouths don't get fed. So I saw opportunity, I asked for it, and they said yes. So I was like, great. And so when I was doing that, it was like, okay, this is actually pretty good, because I watch so many sports that I know what a good broadcast is. I know what sounds good, and like, not everybody's gonna love me. That's fine. I don't care, as long as they don't feel like they hate me. Like, a lot of these broadcasts on national TV, people hate some of these people, and some people might hate me. Sure, that's fine. That's whatever, right? But like, at the end of the day, I'm looking for a broadcast where people can hop on and get into it with me, because they can hear how much I love it. And like, some of my buddies back home, I'd be like, hey, I'm doing this tournament. Tune in if the time zone doesn't screw you over. And my buddy like works in HVAC, right? And he's like, yeah, I just put it on like my work speaker, and I was just listening. He's like, I wasn't watching because I was working, but he's like, I felt like I understood what was going on. And I was like, that means so much. Just by listening.
Yeah,
that like,
dude.
I try to make the broadcast as radio-like as I can. So let me show you. This is the arena.
Dude, you're the first person to screen share with me. Thank you.
Got you. But this is how it is. And like, these, if you can see my mouse, there's like all the arenas, and they've upgraded the media tower even further. And like, that's where I would sit in the broadcast booth, and it's just wall to wall packed.
It's like outdoor box lacrosse?
It's indoor. It is indoor rules, but it is an outdoor arena.
That's sweet, dude.
It's unbelievable. Like, the atmosphere is like, you genuinely cannot find better. It's so cool. And so, like I said, I was lead broadcast, and then I ended up doing the World Championships in 2024 because of my experience with, the European Championships, and I had made some great connections. And so I had a guy that's done multiple Worlds, and I kind of, I've called a number of games with him. I did writing for him because he asked me to write about it because he couldn't come over for the European Championships. And he's like, do you want to write for Inside Lacrosse? I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. I'll write my my daily summaries and stuff like that, and give full media background. So I was doing a full media tour while doing broadcasting, 3-4 games a day. Like, I was working like 8 hours as media, and I was like, I have no background in this. This is crazy. And he gets me into the World Championships. He was my champion for flying me out because it was in New York. And so he, championed the team. They were like, he said, you need this guy. And so I got to do the World Championships in September.
Dude, that's so crazy.
Unbelievable, man. Very blessed.
Opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's always been one of my, like, even when I was a little kid, like, something I always wanted to do was be radio. I grew up really, really poor, so my mom was normally off to work before I got up in the morning. And sometimes we had TV, sometimes we did not, but radio was always there. So, like, the local station in Seattle, 99.9.
Yes,
I've
sir.
been listening to them in the morning forever.
Forever.
So, like, and like that, having somebody that regularly, and like just to be a fly on the wall and have a conversation with somebody, like, it made me feel like I was a part of something. It made me feel like there was somebody there.
Mm-hmm.
Which is the same thing, why I like podcasts. But from a young boy, I was like, one day I'd love to have like some sort of radio show, or at least try radio.
Yeah.
Because that would be so cool, just to do like a trivia game, or just to wake up and talk shit with what seems like all your best friends every single day. Like, I don't think those guys ever had a bad day working together. Even when they were mad, they were just cracking jokes.
Yeah, 100%.
It seems like the best job in the world.
It absolutely, like, being on the media team is it doesn't feel like work, because like, I just love the sport so much, and I'm like so happy to do those broadcasts that like, I'm not working. I get to be a part of this. It's so surreal. And like, I remember the guy that championed my access to the World Championships. His name is Steven Stamp. He's super well known, a Canadian guy, has always been like, he's been an NLL broadcaster for a while, has been media like his whole career. Like, he's incredible. And, you know, big shout out to Steven Stamp for just like the support and how much he's given me and my broadcasting career. But he was telling me, you know, kind of throughout the year, he was like, hey, look, I'm trying. Just so you know, I'm trying. You know, we're going to get you in. And I was like, okay. And he's like, you can't fully get your hopes up, because he's like, it's not up to me. I'm not the decision maker. But he's like, I do have some sway, and I am championing you. And I'm like, okay. So I was keeping my expectations on the floor. I wasn't trying to get myself excited. You know, I was just waiting to see what would happen. And he gives me this call and says, you know, hey, Garrett, it's official. We're going to bring you, you're going to find something in your email here soon. And I said, okay, you know, thanks so much. You know, I'm so excited. Like, I'll book the flights tonight. I don't care. Like, whatever. Like, I'm going to make it so they can't back out. Right. And I just remember I was in my car, and I'll never forget it. Like, it was a beautiful day. It was like sunny, but the sun was setting. I don't remember where I was driving to. It didn't matter. Right. But I just remember crying, just like happy tears, just like, this is so cool that like I get to put my name and like have this in my repertoire of things that I've done, is like being a part of a world championship for anything. Is like I've never been good enough to play on the USA men's championship team. Like, I know this, that's fine. That's never been like a big goal of mine anyways, but I've always wanted to be a part of it in some way. And so to get that call and to be on the broadcast for the world freaking championships was like, I'm part of this. Like, it's historical.
That would make you a world-class, like, just logically.
World-class broadcaster.
That would make you a world-class broadcaster. I'm not sure what your relationship status is, but if that's not on your Tinder bio, it should be now.
I need to update it. I'm a single man. Yeah, and I think that has always been something that like I kind of like to keep in my back pocket. Like, I don't want people to know right away, because I think, you know, I like being diverse and just like who I am, and like I've always been a big like passionate guy about like my hobbies and the things that I do. So like when people find that out, they're like, what do you mean? And like, world championships, you know,
I did this.
As part of that. Yeah. And so it's just like, it's unbelievable. And like, you know, it just opens the door for more opportunities for hopefully more world championships, like hopefully first of many is what I was saying when I was over there. You know, obviously I still need to, you know, keep my craft sharp and keep my relationships strong and just make it so, you know, it's an easy call every year rather than like, can we bring Garrett out? I don't know.
What are like the potential career paths that you could go in, like broadcasting or I guess like podcasting, or like what would you want that to look like?
Honestly, man, it's in the Northwest. There's such little opportunity, and there are a good number of broadcasters. So I'm trying to just crack my way into that sort of like elite roster. And like, I got some great opportunities with a guy named Keith Gagne. He's a world-class referee. He was at the World Championships, and he runs a company called BC Sports TV. And so he does broadcasting for like some of the senior A, junior A games, like some of the tournaments that are based in BC. So I met him when I was in Prague. And so in 2024, I was over there for one of the big tournaments, the one that I showed in the picture. And I try to go back every year if I can. And I see him, and I was like, hey, Keith, you got broadcasting work for me or what? He goes, yeah, call me when you get home. So called him when I got home. And in July, I was up, you know, doing broadcasts for him. And like, I worked an event for him in December. Like, he's an unbelievable contact and a great guy that gives me opportunity, and like a guy that I work really, really, really well with. And so he gives me a lot of opportunity locally. So, you know, hopefully like the more I am around and present, then like guys have time off, guys have life situations happen. Like, who can they call? It's like, you know, Garrett's just right across the border, you know? And so I'm making myself available, and I know that right now is like not my time to like, you know, I'm not going to get the call for the NLL anytime soon. And that's fine. I'm not trying to do that right now. Like, I'm trying to take my steps gradual. And, you know, just start breaking into the BC sports world. And like, because there's no opportunity where I'm at. There really is none. Like, I'd love to do broadcasting full time. Like, I think if I did a couple games, you know, 3-4 games a day, it doesn't even matter the sport. That's the thing about me being a sports guy. I don't care. I'll call anything.
With lacrosse, there's probably not as much money as there would be with like other sports.
I just need opportunity.
Like football, you're a big football guy, right?
I could call like football. I could call soccer. I could call baseball. Like, I could call anything.
Since you played all the sports.
Yeah. A hockey I would be great at too, because it's so similar.
So to even like those aren't jobs you just like go on Indeed and find. Like, those are like a know somebody to know somebody to know somebody. So like, I imagine it starts with just like going to a lot of game, making social media content about the games already?
More so
Maybe?
that, yeah.
Okay.
So when I was at Worlds, I was posting quite a bit, like, you know, my schedule so people could tune in. Like, it was kind of paywalled, a bit funky. So, like, I honestly didn't expect many people to tune in. But, like, you know, my family members did and stuff like that. And, like, my friends were like, we don't want to pay the fee. And I was like, that's fine. There'll be highlights. No worries. Just check those out. I'm not asking everybody to spend, you know, $50 just to hear my voice on a sport they don't necessarily care about.
Yeah.
I get that. And it doesn't even go to me. So, like, whatever. You know, so when I was posting that, I had a friend, she was the roommate of one of my good buddies from high school that lives in the city with me. And she goes, hey, Garrett, like, I am running this event in December and I need an MC. Would you want to host an event? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. That sounds so fun. And so I was an MC for an event with like 150 people about like green building is what it is. So like sustainable green building, like all the new inventions that they're coming out. And I have no background in that. Like I didn't need a background in that, but they just needed a good host. So I got to be the host for the night and like do raffle giveaways and like introduce all the people. And like I got a little monologue at the beginning and the end. And
did you write anything? Did you just...
Oh yeah. Oh
you
yeah.
did? Okay.
Yeah. I had like all of their bios and stuff like that. So I compiled that, printed it out on a flashcards and stuff like that. So I had something to introduce for people. Like there was no way I could memorize all of that. And like I wrote out like my initial monologue and like, you know, I threw some jokes in there and tried to keep it lively and personable to me, but like also business professional. So, you know, it was a networking event in and of itself. And so, you know, trying to keep it light, because that's what it was like, it was a light event, but it also was like I was in a suit and tie. You know, I wanted to be the face of this and have it be like Garrett is looking professional. This is a professional event, even though it was hosted at like a bar concert venue, like really cool space. And like, but they had like great tables, they had catering, they had giveaways, like all this stuff. And like, it was really, really awesome. And so I, you know, got to have like my little monologue and like throw some jokes in, you know, shout out the gal that put it on and like got me connected and like, you know, talk about like what they were actually there for and, you know, what it really, and so I tried to like really like make this an event that they wouldn't forget. And I had some good responses from people like in the crowd, like people like within the organization that were like, yeah, you did a great job. I'm like, thanks. Like I try, you know, like I prepared. I didn't just wake up and was like, oh, today's the day I'm emceeing. It was like, no, I was like kind of stressing about it and trying to just prepare myself into a space where, you know, I would get more opportunities to do stuff like that. Like I love being part of media and like helping people run events. And that's what I think is like ties into my photography work, is like being a part of people's special events. Like I've done you know, some newborn shoots, I've done maternity shoots, I've done engagements, like I've done like all of these things, like graduation, like where people are, it's a huge moment in their life that they want to document, and I get to be a part of that, and it just makes me feel so special.
There's something there. I wish I could figure this out for you.
Yeah, no, it's fine. That's the
like,
beauty of life, isn't
there. It's like, and it's gonna come out of nowhere, and you'll be like, oh shit, there it is. I found
it's
it.
probably just a media agency, you know, like, but the problem is I want to wear all the hats.
Though, because well, that's just a lesson you learn, right? Like how to delegate.
Yeah.
But there's something there to that. Media agencies are so dirty. It's such a gross business.
Yeah.
Especially in the beginning. But being a part of that, like documenting that special moment, like being the one who gets to make sure that the next generation talks about it. Like there's something from our world currently that's missing from that, especially if you can do it like in an authentic way. Where, you know, everything right now, or at least the last couple of years, we're getting better, where everything was so overproduced, so overpublished, made to look like all fancy, where now it seems like the best videos out there that are performing the best are like just a dude in his car, you know, dropping some knowledge or things like that. But if you can find a way to like capture the moments that are uncapturable, and just kind of always be there, kind of like your philosophy when you even booked a client is like, you don't really book off these packages that are like, you know, 10 edited frames and all that. Like, book a few hours with me, we'll go hang out, and I'll give you all the shots at the end of it.
100%.
With that, you'll get the candid shots that you just can't ask for. You can't be posed.
Yeah, and like I've had a lot of ideas come like kind of either after the photo shoot or like because we have downtime and I'm not on a schedule. It's like I have the ability to like brainstorm a shot that ends up looking like really great. Like one of my favorite shots I've ever taken in my life, and maybe will never be topped, I don't know, but I did the maternity shoot for my oldest friend and he asked me to be his best man, but I just moved to Prague and I was like, I cannot afford coming back. Like this like breaks my heart to even talk to you about, but like I can't. And so when I returned home and they were pregnant, I was like, hey, I want to do the shoot for you and I want to do it for free.
Nice.
And I want to give you something to remember, you know, that like as much as like it pained me, like I was always thinking about you. Like I checked in on your wedding day, like, you know, obviously I was like still present, but like I couldn't be there physically. So like, let me give you this maternity shoot so that you have something that like I'm a part of. And so I took this picture. And this was after the fact. So he was like, yeah, she's tired. She was like ready to pop, basically. He's like, yeah, we're tired. Like, it's, you know, time to wrap up. I was like, cool, sounds good. And we did it at this beach, you know, where we grew up. And, but like, as I get into my car, I like looked to my left and I was like, oh my God, this is the background. This is it. So I get out of my car. Their car was like warming up and everything. And I run to their car. I was like, get the hell out of the car right now. Get your
2 seconds.
Game face on. We have more pictures to take. We're not done. And they're like, okay. And they absolutely, like, here, let me know when you see that.
Oh, whoa. Me and my wife's shots, we wore the same outfit.
Really?
Yeah. To the point that, well, that's wild.
That's awesome.
That's perfect lighting. Right.
Yeah, I saw that field, man, and I was like, no, this is what is going to make like the most special photo. And like, don't get me wrong, I love the rest of the photos. Like here, like you can see, like, you know, there were some great photos within that. Like it was great. It was a great day for a photo shoot. And like, you know, they turned out really awesome. Like he was a drummer growing up. So, you know, daddy's little noisemaker. And like,
yeah,
I think that the photos turned out really awesome, but like, I just don't know how I'm going to top something like this, you know?
Right. Right.
And that's like, you can even see like there's so many, 100%. But like just for like capturing the moment and just like what I felt was like a perfect shot is like, I don't know that it gets much better than that. And like you can see like I add like all these extra photos. Like there's not just like one of the series of like, you know, the clothes being held up or
right.
You know.
You get all the shots in between too,
which
are really the important ones.
Agreed. Because like, you know, if they have like, you know, a different eyeball for it, then like I want to provide that for them. So like, you know, a really great like intimate moment where he's checking out the belly or, you know, they're just so happy. You know, he wanted some by himself, and I was like, that's perfect. And then some, like, fun ones, too.
That's so clever.
He's awesome. We did a couple of those, like, just so
It's
funny.
a nice shot. Like, where is that place?
This is, I think it's called Iverson Beach. It's on Camino Island, where we grew up.
Oh, nice. It's pretty.
Yeah, it's gorgeous there.
I'm trying to pull up my engagement photo. The outfits are too similar to not show you.
That's so funny, yeah. Yeah, but that's like why not booking like a specific time like jives better with just like my values as a photographer too, and just being a part of the moment so that I have the ability to be like, hey, get the fuck out of your car.
Yeah.
I got it. Like, get over here.
Yeah, exactly. And it just kind of allows you a little bit more freedom too. And there's no right or wrong way. I am the worst person when it comes to like business advice where I'll learn something, I'd be like, well, that's gospel. And I won't trust my like instincts. I'll just be like, I have to do it this way. And luckily I have my wife, even though I don't listen to her as much as I should. Where she'll be like, well, your gut kind of tells you to do it this way. And then 6 months go by, I'll end up doing it the way I thought I should have done it.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's just like, there's no right or wrong way. It's got to make it work for you in your process.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely something. Later. Yeah, you can text it to me. But yeah, there's definitely something to be said about like how I can be a part of like special moments. And like, I do have a huge passion for like being part of the media, but just like, where can I find that role where like I can fulfill sort of like that media? Like I love being on the broadcast. Like I liked writing. I didn't love writing up the like game write-ups and tournament summaries and stuff like I didn't love that, but like I was also working really hard on doing the broadcast. So like I was kind of spent by the time I would do like my recaps and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And also, this is a completely different subject, but like I had a laptop that could barely function. So I was like trying to do stuff and I was just like, oh my God, I can like barely click through my tabs. This is so annoying.
So in like optimal working environment, like where you were doing this full-time professionally at the top, it would be a little bit different. And like there's always going to be some work involved.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah, but like broadcasting isn't work to me. Like it just isn't. Like I love the preparation before the game. Like I love talking to the teams and like getting like little insights and like what they're trying to do. And like, you know, I'm always like, hey, I'm not telling the other team. Don't worry, this is for the broadcast. What do you got? And they'll tell me, and I'm like, let's go. Like this is sick. I can add like so much more flavor and detail to this broadcast.
It's like sports journalism.
Yeah, 100%. And, you know, but like also the photography aspect is such a big, you know, passion for mine too, that it's like, okay, how can these things all combine in a way that like gets me paid at the level at which I would want to pursue it full time? I don't think I'm there yet, or I haven't found a way to get there. And so that's like, maybe I never do, and that's fine. You know, it's not necessarily like a lifelong goal of mine to like kind of fill that, but like I definitely would like to do more photo shoots. I think that's something that like I wanted to do more of in 2025. It's just like, okay, time to go find some clients. You know, I gotta pitch them. I gotta close them. I gotta, you know.
Yeah.
But and it's like funny because like I don't do contracts. I don't do anything like that because it's all been referral based. So like everybody that's like, hey Garrett, we want to use your photography. We'll pay you after, you know, we do the shoot. We're going to meet at this time. I've never had a cancellation. I've never had anything like this because it's all referrals, which is like the glory of referrals, right? Is like people do what they say they will in this realm, right? Like that's not always the case, right? Like, you know, you talk to realtors, that's my previous role where it's like their referrals will back out or be painful or whatever. Yeah. Whereas like with photography, it's almost guaranteed.
Almost guaranteed. And you'll have rare instances, but like if you're very specific in what you do, like you won't have to have a crazy amount of clients. You can have very few clients every year, charge a ton, and operate that way too. But again, when it comes to the business part of it, like you really have to want to run the business part, which is by no means like any fun. It's kind of shitty, and most of the time you're taking a huge pay cut as the CEO or as the founder. So you really want to put a CEO in place that's been a CEO before. Would be eventually the move. So like I just had somebody on the podcast a couple weeks ago. One of my friends, Mason, he runs an SMMA, which is social media marketing agency
for realtors, right?
For realtors, yes.
Yeah, I listened. Yeah.
Okay, so like what he's kind of figuring out is oh man, I lost my train of thought with that. I've never actually heard somebody say on the show. Now they're like, oh yeah, I actually listened to that whole episode. I was like, what? No way.
Caveat, I didn't listen to the whole episode, but I did listen to quite a bit of it because I saw how relevant it was to, you know, I was coming on the pod and I was like, oh, that guy does kind of what I did. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. I want to check it out.
Yeah, but he just hit his first 25K month.
Yeah,
and I was
huge.
like, okay, so like what's kind of the secret to this? Like, what are you figuring out? He's like, dude, the secret is just like simplicity and having as few clients as possible while charging the absolute most. And then really the secret is like your highest paid salesman should be making more than you. Like you as the CEO or as the founder are actually taking like a pay cut. Like if you want to be living the lifestyle and traveling and all that good stuff, yes, you are the founder, but just understand that you're probably making like $300,000 a year, where your top salesman is doing $500,000 to $750,000, but he's killing himself for you, where you're on a private plane chilling. Yeah. So you have to kind of decide where you're at, and where I'm kind of at with business. Like I want like 10 clients max, and just to chill, dude. Yeah. Chill. Like that's it. I don't want anything more than that. So
full devotion for your clients. Yeah,
100%. I want the best product possible, and I only want to work with people who really want to do what we do. So like you would got to figure out is like what kind of founder or CEO or business person do you want to be? Do you want to be the 18 hours a day guy who's, you know, doing $5 million a year driving Lambos and shit, or do you want to be the guy on the golf course on Sundays and chilling like that?
And $500K a year.
And $500K a year, and still driving a Lambo.
Yeah, it just takes you a year longer to get it, right? Like,
yeah, and I flip-flop constantly.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I think, you know, I like having the control over like what I do, and like I think that's where like I'm not necessarily pressed to like find extra, you know, work in that like media or like photography realm, because like I will go and ask and go get myself business, and like or you know I'll get referrals, or I'll get clients, you know, kind of passively through referrals and stuff like that. And I think that that's been a good landscape for like, you know, I do have a full-time income elsewhere, so like this is not something I want to have. Like if I had 10 photography clients come to me today, I would have to decline them probably, you know, or like space them out over the course of a quarter so that I can give that full devotion. Like I could probably handle 5 to 10 clients a month photography, but that would still be like full time.
Yeah,
like,
bro, your editing would be insane.
Yeah. And mind you, I'd get really good. Like I would like my editing right now, like I don't edit for fun. Like I know a lot of people, like when they're just starting out, like they will just edit. I've always thought the editing is the worst part for me. And it's been a big priority for me this last year is getting my editing skills higher so that my eyeball can match the product. Cause like I'll have an idea and sometimes like I've just fallen so flat on like my edits and like I just can't seem to figure it out. And like I just get so fucking pissed off. And like my clients will be like, no, these are great. And I'm like, they could be so much better. Like,
Yeah.
you know, and so that's what I've been really focusing on is getting my editing skills higher and like, you know, booking more clients so that I can play around with the edits further. Or like I have been better about like practicing like my editing for fun or like watching different videos before I start like an editing process so that I can, you know, take something new and like apply it to like my next client or like my next photo that I'm editing so that I can always like, okay, does this work for this photo? No, but do I know the skill now? So like when it comes up, I can try it and see like what kind of effects and like just having more mastery of the tools and like the software that I have available. I've neglected a bit, truthfully, but like I definitely want that to be more of like what I see in my mind's eye before I snap the photo is actually what I deliver to the client. And I think that that's like something that like I'm looking to do. And I think as far as like the highest income photography is weddings. So I would probably want to break
Real
into
estate's
wedding
pretty good,
photography. That's actually something I've really been wanting to do.
I have some friends that do that and they do very well.
Yeah, that is something I have really been wanting to break into, and I have ideas for like how to get there. So like literally it's the same thing as like, but what I want and what I feel like I'm lacking is real estate portfolio work. And so I want to just go and shoot for free for people. So like my idea that I've had recently was like, hey, like I can go and pull every realtor in my county, you know, top to bottom, anywhere that's an hour drive, I can pull all of them, no problem.
Yeah.
And just email them. Hey, I want to break into this field. Here's the transparency. I'm breaking into this field. I'm a great photographer. Here's my portfolio. Check out my other work. I would crush your real estate. I would help you sell your listing faster. On average, people that have nicer photography sell their listings faster. I will help you do that. Here's what I'm going to do for you. You come let me shoot your first 3 listings completely for free, or I have them pay me and say, hey, when I get my next referral, when your realtor buddy Joe Schmo books with me, I'll refund you a third of your price.
That's a great offer.
So you pay it forward, you give me a referral. You don't refer me, you pay full price. You get me another listing, you get your money back.
Yeah, that's a solid deal.
Not bad, right?
Yeah.
I've thought pretty heavily about that.
Dude, that's something that you could really hit the ground running with, like literally tomorrow, because it's as easy as pulling some rosters and making a few calls.
And I can
like,
do
hey,
that
I'll
easily.
come shoot from you. Anybody that answers the phone that says, hey, I'm actually on my way to a showing, you're like, perfectly. What's the address? I'll bring my camera.
Yeah.
It's all free. I'm just trying to earn your business.
Everybody loves free, and at the quality that I can produce, they will sell that house faster, without a doubt. Like, I take great photos.
Dude,
and
that would be dope.
I have thought a lot about that. That has been something that has been on my mind lately, and something I'm like pretty keen on, like maybe giving a try and seeing like what I can draft up. I need to be a little bit more serious in the sense of like I need to draft out like, okay, what's my plan of attack? What's my call to action? How am I going to get in touch with these people? How am I going to actually earn the free business? Because even something free, people will say no.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I want to do it on a contract basis. So I write out, you know, hey, here's what I'm doing. Here's what you're paying for. When you refer me and those contracts close, you will receive money. So that way they have like a professional, like legally binding contract that like I will pay them when my next deal closes or whatever. So like it is kind of a pain in the ass to get sort of like a contract written up, but it does lend credence to, you know, how professionally I want to operate.
Yeah. I just don't think that's the problem to solve first. I think the problem is to go test it before you spend money or time and see if you can find five friends that will do it. Not even friends, 5 people that you can build some rapport with and be like, hey, I'm trying to do this thing. I'm starting from ground zero. Like you were the first. I'll do the whole thing for free. And then as you like up your professionalism and get better and better, then you introduce things like that. Mm-hmm. One of my businesses was I ran an SMMA for contractors, and 90% of my problem solving when I had an upset client was we were solving the wrong problem at the wrong time. All problems are valid. All problems are things that we need to be solved, but we need to put them into an 18-month bracket and decide at what point is that the green light or the most important time to do it.
100%.
So in the beginning, The only important thing is what's called product market fit. That is it. You don't need contracts. You don't need insurance. You don't need nothing. You need a conversation. You need two people that are willing to do business together and an idea.
Yeah.
If you can do it 5 times and you feel 50% about 51%, then you keep going. If you feel 49% or less, you shake it, and now you've really spent no time on the legal, on setting up bank accounts, on getting an LLC. Because once you set up those things, you kind of feel locked to this thing, and if it sucks, you feel married to it. And in some states, they charge you $1,000 to shut down your LLC. Like in Delaware, where my business is started, they don't charge very little fees to start up. But if I want to end my LLC, it's $1,000.
That's crazy.
So then you're if you have all that in place already, you're married to it. It's your baby.
True. That's a good point. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
So like, all you really got to do, find somebody to do some business.
Just go shoot some photos.
Yeah, and if you hate it
for free.
If you hate it, like so be it. Maybe you can get some gas money out of the guy or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, because obviously you're traveling, or I think you're in a pretty small area, so probably not a lot of business around you. But I'm
in the biggest city in my county.
Oh, okay. So you could find somebody to work for free for.
Yeah. Oh,
but
yeah.
Dude, like, that was always like the biggest problem with my contractors. Was
yeah,
like,
I'm in the biggest city in my county. I thought so, but
okay. So we could find a Coldwell Banker agent to to work for free. I used to get these calls, dude. Oh, this is so frustrating. They'd be like, dude, I have to put my ad spend on hold this month. All right, John, why? Well, my guys say that I need to buy this new hydraulic press thing to get this job done. Why? Well, they said that we need it. I'm like, why are we buying a tool, bro? You know somebody with one? Oh, yeah, my Uncle Billy has one, and, he says, call Billy.
Yeah, just call Billy.
We're not going to cut off your business supply so you can go buy a new toy, asshole.
Yeah, ridiculous, right?
It's a problem that we can solve in 18 months. If we keep getting these jobs over and over and over and over again, and Billy's getting annoyed, then we'll buy the toy. I don't want it. You're not stopping your business. Okay. So, dude, it's always the business. We do this with real estate agents, too.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, oh, man, I'm trying to build my personal brand. You haven't sold a house. Let's solve that problem first.
Man, isn't that just a knife, bro? And they don't even want to hear that, too. You're like, I remember I spoke to a client, like, I'll never forget this. Like, this is not at my most recent, but the one prior. And she hops in this meeting, and I'm like, okay, cool. How long you been in business for? About like 8-9 years. Cool. How long you been a broker for? Like 4 or 5 years. How many people under you? 3 or 4. Cool. Do you have a website right now? No. Do you have a CRM? No. How many houses do you sell on average a year? 6. And this was in like middle of nowhere, Arkansas. I'm like, so the house prices are maybe $140,000. I'm like,
yeah.
So you're telling me you make $15,000-$20,000 a year. This is your full-time gig, and you have people underneath you. What? How the fuck have you been in business for this long?
Right.
Like, I left that meeting. I was like, this is maybe the worst product fit I've ever had. And so like, she was like, yes, all of this sounds amazing. I tell her the price, instantly like depression set in. Like she just realized what she was doing and like what really is going on in the tech world and like what can take her to that next level and how far she was away from that. And I ruined her day. I ruined her month. I ruined her year just by being, a salesman. I didn't even really get her into the weeds of like trying to like coach her to be better. I just was like, 6 houses a year. What do you...
How do you
get
live?
out and fucking dial? Like, go sell a house. What?
Right, let's solve that problem for you. I had an agent.
Crazy.
Recently, actually, it wasn't an agent. It was a contractor. And the issue was... oh, dude. The issue was always, like, more leads, right? More jobs.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
That's always the issue. And it seems like all these guys ever want to do at first is, like... They always want to divert their time from doing that. So this guy calls me up. He's like, hey, I keep getting these calls after 5:30.
When people are off work?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. I said, okay.
Weird.
Yes, John. I'm going to call everybody John because John is my my least favorite client I've ever had. So he's always going to remember. Okay. Yeah. People get off work. They see things on Facebook. They click, whatever. That's when they go. Well, that's when I'm chilling too. John. You own a business, dude. Like, he's like, well, all my guys get to hang out at work. or get to hang out at 5:30 and go to the bar. And John,
you are the owner.
dude,
brother.
you're paying me. And like the thing that we always get into is like, why are we shutting off business to
Chill at the bar.
for something else, to do
hang
something
out.
else? Yeah. And the agents do the exact same thing, where it's like, why are we always sacrificing the business first before everything else? I never understand it. Yeah.
It's because most people are bad business people. I think realtors are the worst of them all, to be honest.
Well, they're not really business people. I mean, some of them are, right? The ones that are good are. But
Yeah, the ones that actually are in the game, but 99% of them fail out.
yeah.
So, like, you know, they think it's the easiest paycheck in the world.
Dude, it's like the hardest paycheck in the world. Why do people think
horrible.
the more money that you're going to make, the easier it's going to be?
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It's crazy. It's crazy, dude.
God, yeah.
Well, dude, actually, it's time for me to about wrap this up. But
Yes, sir.
I always have a couple questions that I like to ask people before I wrap up.
Shoot.
Going through kind of what you're going through, entering into a new year,
Mhm.
one piece of advice to somebody that's in your similar shoes. So maybe that's somebody that just is going through something at the beginning of 2025 that's awful. What's one piece of advice you would give them to make the rest of the year great?
Here's what I've really come to learn. I've had a pretty personally brutal last couple of years. I really have. And the thing that really changed me for the better was going to therapy. Like, I got in about a year and a couple months ago. I was going through a pretty tough breakup, and it just seemed like I was like, you know, this is the time. I've had it in my back burner. I've been wanting to do it. It's time. And like, that has given me so many tools to just handle things more appropriately and not let like the highs and lows of life rock me to my core. They can shake me, but they can't rock me. And one of the big things was journaling too. So I actually bought I had been journaling for a while, and like my therapist was like, Garrett, you need a journal. I think it would help you. And I was like, I know, I'm gonna do it. I'm so gonna do it. And then I wouldn't. And then I was like getting a little bit more serious about a year later. Like, it did take me a while to really start doing it. And then I was journaling a lot more frequently. And then for this year, I was like, you know, I'm gonna make it like an integral part of like my day. And so I've been journaling either once or twice a day all year, you know, like, and that habit won't stop. And then also just being active. Like, mental health on the journaling aspect helps so much with just like your internal systems, but your physical health impacts your mental health in such a different level that like I get fired from this job. It's my only main source of income, right? And I'm not shaken. I'm not stirred. I'm still going out and lifting and like, you know, just doing things that make my situation objectively right now not great, but I don't feel despair. I don't feel doom. I know I need to just keep grinding at what I'm doing, like applying for jobs, reaching out to my network, like finding the people that believe in me and working on leveraging that. So somebody in a situation that's similar to mine, like therapy, journaling, the gym, and good sleep. Like I think like if you can't control your situation externally, control it from within, and you will start to find clarity, or you will find a way that will help you along in your next steps.
Yeah, well said. I'm a big journaler myself. Every day, twice a day
Sweet.
for the last 4 or 5 years.
Dang, I'm trying to get there. I really am.
Yeah, I'm a huge proponent. I'm super dyslexic. So like growing up, yeah, like horribly dyslexic. So growing up, I didn't really learn how to really read fluently, read well until I was in my early 20s.
Wow. Yeah.
But writing was something like I could get my ideas out. If you looked at it, you couldn't read it because the words were so misspelled and there was no grammar and all that. But I could always like get the stories out. But one day I decided to start watching TV with captions on.
Yeah. I love subtitles.
And I learned sign language in high school too.
Oh, sweet. Yeah.
So I watched a lot of movies in captions and things like that. A couple of people I played lacrosse with were deaf. So we all learned sign language and things like that. But
that's awesome, man. I got some deaf lacrosse players that I am connected with, and they're the best.
They are the best. They're the best friends you could ever have, most brutally honest people you will ever need.
Mm-hmm.
But ever since that, captions is the really thing that made me start understanding like what language looked like writing. So that's when I really started journaling, was when I noticed I was getting better at reading and writing. So it was like, okay, if I journal every single day, I'll get good at it. And then just kind of like getting your thoughts out in the first, 6 months are kind of brutal because you're just like, yellow dog. I went to the store yesterday. I don't like doing this. But if
Yeah,
you can
yeah,
go
yeah.
like 5 or 10 minutes of just free form thought, by like within like your first 6 months, you'll end up getting like a story or something pretty cool out of it. And that's when I got hooked. I was like, okay, there's like little golden nuggets in here that I will come up with. And those became like the basis of like some of my tattoos, stories that I've talked about or telling, and like all these things have come out of that. So now it's just, that's one thing that I will refuse to always give up. You know, I have
Love that, dude.
5 journals over here. I have 2 new ones I got for Christmas. I'm looking forward to it. The therapy thing is interesting, especially I don't hear a lot of dudes say that they found success with therapy. And it's promising to me. I've been recommended a few times before. My journal has been my best therapist.
Yeah.
And then some loud music and a run takes care of just about everything.
I'm saying, man, you're hitting most of those principles, and I think that like if there is like a next level, I think that would unlock that for you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I get a lot of therapy like from doing things like this as well.
100%. Yeah.
Nothing either makes me feel, whether somebody agrees with me or disagrees with me, like hearing somebody else's perspective about something like just makes me feel more human and makes me understand like nothing is really that big of a problem. Nothing is really that real where I need to be feeling upset about it.
We are tiny little meat robots on an infinitesimally large universe. Like,
yeah, flying
it doesn't
through the
matter.
darkness of space at a
Yeah.
bazillion miles an hour. Like none of this really matters, dude.
100%. Yeah, I would look into it if you could. I had a cool situation because it was a friend that I had in college, but like freshman and sophomore year. And that was obviously, I was 21. No, I was like 19, 20. No, more like 18, 19, 20, around that range. And I didn't get into it until I was 28, 27. So, you know, I hadn't really known her for like 6-7 years, but like, you know, we were friends on Instagram, whatever. And like, I just followed her journey and was like, oh, she's a therapist. Like,
Oh,
I
shit.
need a therapist
That's
right
cool.
now. And I was like, honestly, I feel like maybe men have a harder time because they kind of want to start with a little bit more of like the ice broken. And so I went that route. And she literally said to me, she's like, this feels unethical because of what I've been taught. However, because it's been so long since we've really, really connected, I feel comfortable doing it, but I'm still going to run it by my manager. And I was like, for sure, you know, do what's best for your practice. I would be open to it, just so you know. I don't care about any biases, like whatever, right? And then she came back, she's like, yeah, let's do it. And it's been great. You know, I've been seeing her since she was an intern, you know, and now she's a full-fledged therapist. She's incredible. But like, for me, it helped a lot having that person that like already knew just me. She didn't know like every detail about me. She didn't really, really, really know me.
Yeah, that's kind of like the perfect person, honestly.
It was great. Yeah. And it's been instrumental for just like how much I've grown in the last like year and just like the man I want to be and who I'm becoming and like the steps I've made and like how much it's just enlightened what I've done, what I'm doing, what I can do to get myself to these next levels just as a man. I think that that's something that I try to look through the lens of often is just like, as a man, where am I and where do I want to be? And that helps me really like get that perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, that's solid advice. Maybe some I'll be taking myself. Yeah.
I recommend it to anybody. And like the joke that I've heard like numerous times that really has stuck with me is like, oh, did you have a childhood? You could benefit from therapy. Everybody can. Like even people that feel like their life is perfect, like there's always something that like you having that outside perspective in a non-biased like professional lens of like they have a great understanding of how the human mind works, how social interactions work, just how things really go on and how they make us feel, like can just add perspective that you would never hear. Like my favorite sessions are the worst ones, genuinely. The ones where I leave feeling like, God damn it, Maddie, like why would you do this to me? Or like she says something to me and like we're in a session and I'm just like, fuck.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I leave and I'm like, that sucked ass. This is the worst thing. Why would I do this to myself? And then I'm like, I'm so much better for it. I'm challenged.
Damn. Yeah. Nobody talks. No dudes that I know will talk about therapy like that. Actually, I've never had maybe that's not true. I don't know. I've never listened to somebody like I've listened to you about it, and you're making a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would be happy to talk about it further too. Like I think it's a great thing and like could see if I have any recommendations down in your area from the network that I have.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, anything's worth a shot, right? Everything's
100%.
worth a shot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Let's put a bow tie on this. Thanks for
All right,
listening,
brother.
everybody. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for having me.